I'm sitting here listening to everybody and it's amazing. It's remarkable, which is my new favorite word of 2021, 2022. The last day of the year is my favorite day of the year because I get to look back at all the things in retrospect that I could have done better and that sort of thing. And I mean, I made a list in a notepad of all the things I was proud of and all the goals that we hit. So, like PPFs, implementing that from the 360, I was able to hit a lot of my own personal goals. But the one thing I think I'm most proud of was 2 years ago, there was so much uncertainty in myself, in my wife and I's relationship, and in my business, in my future. The one thing that I talked to Brandon about, another win was being on his podcast. I really appreciate that. But was the certainty that I have in what I should be doing in the day-to-day, but also in creating a future for the staff in my office that I always feel responsible for. And that certainty spills over into the relationship with my own family, my wife, my business associates, everybody that's around me. And that is, I would say, the number one thing that I got out of 2021. But when I look at the plans that I've set for 2022, 2 years ago, they weren't even part of what I believed could happen. It wasn't even part of the possibility. And I was spending so many years trying to figure out, how could I get to $1 million when I can barely do what I'm doing? And so in implementing the systems that the 10X 360, the platforming, which we really pushed hard for, but I just want to, in implementing those things, it's not only raised my belief lid, but everyone around me. And now I hear my staff talking about when we have 3 clinics. I mean, that wasn't even a possibility 2 years ago. So that's really amazing. But here's some things I'm proud of, and I'm just going to list them off, and I'll let somebody else go because I'm not good about celebrating myself a whole lot. So, but I'm just going to list these. Number one, I restored and improved my relationship with my wife. That was number one. It's been rocky for a long time, for a decade, because of the uncertainty I had in business. I was able to win $5,000 in a speak off that I never would have had confidence to do 2-3 years ago. I was able to work with some amazing people, including people like Grant and Brandon and Dr. Mike Carberry and Nicole Arbor and Jesse Itzler. I worked with a bunch of those people this year. Completed 10X 360 and platforming. I was able to sign with AMI. And so now I'm a business partner with AMI. Became friends with Pete Vargas, Pat Quinn, Jared Glant. And actually, this is kind of a side note, Dennis Rodman. I was able to meet up with him and we're friends now, apparently. We were able to remodel our office, which we couldn't do before because of the money. Now we were able to do that. And I became friends and peers with Brandon Dawson, Natalie Buckwise, Grant Cardone, Elena, Jared, Pete Vargas, and the whole Cardone Ventures team feels like family. And so I feel like I've become recognized as more of a leader and an example of implementation and how to grow as a business locally, but also within this. So I really appreciate everybody, for sticking around and hearing that. But this is what's possible. You change as a person, and then you start changing everybody around you. So hang in there and commit and take action. That's all I can say.
So Greg, your revenue, so there's a reference point. Your revenue 2 years ago was about $400,000 and you'd been struggling. And what did you do this year in 2021?
1.2. And that was with a November where, if you remember, I was on one of these calls and we had COVID go through my office, and literally we missed about 2.5 to 3 weeks that month, with different people.
So 3x growth in 24 months, just so everybody puts that, when one person can do it, anybody can do it. We've heard of 3x growth. We've heard from Jay. He's had 5x growth in a year. Holly's doubled. So these are all reference points. And I talk about reference points. So when you're sitting there thinking about growing at 10% next year, or 15% next year, or setting a target at 20%, just realize that it's your false belief that's in the way of a double or a triple or a 10X. Just acknowledge that, own it, and trust me, you'll really appreciate yourself for recognizing that and setting bigger targets, which is the whole premise of the 10X rule. So thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. I have two quick things. Number one, November, felt really bad because we were losing a lot, but because we implemented the things and we had an amazing team, we made it all back in December. So in December, we finished strong and made it all back. So we're back to where we needed to be, even with a bad November. Number one. And then number two, looking at 2022, the goals that we have set with the SBU team, we're going to double from last year to this year just by implementing, optimizing.
Just everybody can remember this call. The other reason I love this is because this is my opportunity to press into you about what's next. But Greg's team will do 2 to 2.5 million easily in 2022. So when you look at that growth cycle, it's just important to remember, because we'll be revisiting this next year. So congratulations, buddy.